vision has to do with information, enlightenment, education, and entertainment. In this particular field, there are some individuals who you cannot just but recognize because of what they have brought to the table. And in the spirit of celebrating such individuals, we welcome you to another interesting time out on Executive Discuss. I am Ololade Adeniji Adele. On this week's episode of the show, I have found myself right here in the home of a producer of all producers. We also refer to him as a master storyteller, talking about the man, Peter Ego MFR. Come with me as we meet this man and reveal different sides to him, all on Executive Discuss. Indeed, it is an honor to have with us the master storyteller, the producer of producers. Some of us call him Uncle Peter. Others call him Oga Peter. For some, he's Baba. Please join us as welcome Peter Ego. Hello, Uncle Peter.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to have you here with us on the show.
Thank you.
Now you are what we want to call the producer of all producers, the master storyteller. Tell us what growing up was like.
Well, I was born in Jos, Plateau State. My father was a tin miner. And so growing up as the son of a tin miner, it was moving from camp to camp. As he moved from one camp to the other, seeking for tin and columbite. And but most of the time we lived in Jos town. And growing up in Jos town, one thing that I remember very vividly is living in a compound where we were the only non-Igbos in that compound. And so we all grew up speaking Igbo. I didn't have to learn Igbo, I grew up speaking Igbo. And the language, of course, of discourse among our friends and all was Hausa. So we grew up speaking Hausa and Igbo. I had to learn my own language, Urdu. And but most of the time, because my father was in the mines most of the time, and my mother had to make ends meet with little sales here and there. So we all grew up hawking either groundnut, it depends on what was in season, or we sold eggs, boiled eggs, guinea fowl eggs at that time, or chin-chin or puff-puff. And when we came back from school, we'd pick up the wares and go around town. And but the most popular one was, of course, the eggs. And because it led us out to end up in the cinema. The cinema was, at that time there was no television, of course. The only way to watch any movie in image was the cinema. And in Jos, there were movies in the morning, movies in the afternoon, movies in the evening.
Wow.
So we ended up always in the cinema, of course. And if the good new attraction was at night, we would end up in the cinema. And of course, that meant severe beating from my mother. The poor worried woman would be sitting out there, wondering where her children were. And then about 11 o'clock, we'd be strolling back from the movies. No amount of beatings or demonstrations stopped us, because once there was a new movie, we wanted to see it. And that in a way affected who I am today, because watching those movies, I fell in love with the moving image. And got quite adept actually in understanding the moving image. Most of the movies at that time were Indian films. The English films were few and in between. David Crockett, Johnny Westmoller's Jungle Jim, the Tarzan series and all that. But after them came the Indian movies. So we learned to sing Indian songs. We learned to dance Indian dances. And, but most of them were without subtitles. So we just watched.
You didn't understand what they were talking about?
We did. That's how come, because they were well produced. And surprisingly, at that age, I could understand what was going on. Some adults would even pay for me to watch and tell them what was happening. Okay, that's the actor, that's the waziri, this is what is happening and all that. I got to really, from a young age, understand the power of the moving image and using it to tell stories. So that basically is my growing up years. Is in Jos and all that.
So somehow the cinemas led you into the career path you eventually chose. Now, I know that it just did not start like that. After cinemas, yes, of course, you went to school. Take us through your educational background.
Well, primary school was in Jos. And secondary school went to St. John's College, Kaduna. I love literature, of course, which follows, of course, storytelling, understanding, watching and all that. Those years, you don't jump to university immediately. University start, I think, from the middle of the year or later part of the year. So you have to work from January to that time before going. And the school retained me to teach in the school. So I was teaching Form 1 and Form 2 before going to university. And while I was doing that, the principal, because he knew my interest in literature, asked me to organize a drama competition among the halls in the school. So I chose the existing popular books at that time, The Incorruptible George. And many of those books were popular. And we were short by one book. We searched and said and couldn't get a book for that. We selected all the existing published books that we knew. So the principal said, why don't you write one? You do so well in literature, why don't you write one? So I wrote. But because it was almost late, as I was writing, they were casting and whatever. By the time I finished, and they were going to perform, that was time for me to go to the university. I was there when I was told that when they came, they brought judges from the British Embassy and the American Embassy to adjudicate the productions. And my play came first.
The story you
that
wrote?
I wrote.
Wow. What was the title of the story?
It was called The Gods of Ancestors. And so I said, oh, so I can write. So when I got to university, again, of course, in my final year in the university, we were divided into two groups, and we were told to produce a play on escape, the word escape. Each group was supposed to do that. And my group, there were so many voices about what to do, what to write, and but so when I found it was concerned, I told them, okay, we should all take a break over Friday and come back on Monday with new ideas. So that I went back and wrote a play on the word escape. And that was what was chosen, and we won in the two groups. Wow. So that gave me confidence to say that I could really write what was compelling. At that time, television was also coming up. NTA, Sokoto had said about to set up their own television in 1975. So the choice was whether to go to television or to stay with culture. Arts and culture. My brothers and friends wanted me to stay with arts and culture. Because when we went to Lagos with all those teams, so much money was given to us.
Oh, okay.
There was
for
a lot
the money.
For the money. We had so much. I, in fact, led this Northwest State team. I was one of the leaders of the team to Lagos. So there was so much money. They would come to my room and there was money lying all over the place. So they said, look, you must choose culture. That's where the money is. And don't forget, Festac was coming around the corner. Yes. A lot of money was being pumped for culture and all that. And but I chose television. So the matter had to go to my father to settle. My father said, what do you want? I said, I want to go to television. I love from the cinema days, I want to be a producer, to be able to. And my brothers would argue, what is produced and directed by? What is there? I will go to where
the money is.
And of course, the produced and directed by has opened more doors for me than money.
Exactly, than money will have.
So that is how I got into television, 1975, as a pioneer member of NTV Sokoto. For programs, it was all live in the studio. No camera to shoot outside. So we did all our productions live. We rehearsed all your actors, have the sets on set. We were all studio productions at that time. And once it was time, we'll take the news, and then in 10 minutes we're coming back to you. Exactly 10 minutes, count down to you, over to Studio One, and you were on.
Wow.
No margin for error. And
no take two.
No take two. So that was the atmosphere in which we grew up. And so that went on and on for quite some time. But the challenge was there. I felt confined by that working in the studio. At that time, 1975-76, all the television stations, the famous programs at that time were Village Headmaster, Sam and Jab, Masquerade, all studio-based programs. And I was producing studio-based programs also in Sokoto until 77, when NTA became one. All the stations that came under the umbrella of NTA. But we're now from NTV Sokoto, we're now NTA Sokoto. And when NTA became one in 77, one of the first things they said was they organized a competition among the stations so that they would have material, of course, for networked transmission. And I wrote, produced, and directed the entry from NTA Sokoto, a play called Moment of Truth.
Yes, the award-winning production.
Well, to cut the long story short, we were the winning entry. Mine was the winning entry. And when the next year came, the president at that time, Obasanjo, General Obasanjo, came up with Operation Feed the Nation. NTA decided that because of the popularity they saw when we transmitted the drama competition, they thought we should use a drama series to help support government endeavors. And so, because I produced the winning entry for that competition, I was taken to Lagos to now put together this series, of which, of course, became Cockcrow at Dawn. I was asked to put together. When I got there, the brief I got was a short write-up that a civil servant who retires is given a loan, gets a loan from government, and then goes into agriculture. Well, I start down to say, how many such people will exist? How many people will have access or have the collateral to go and get a loan? If we wanted a mass appeal, then we needed to touch somebody who would not be able to afford that kind of loan. And so we chose to move it, and the lead character to be somebody with basically first leaving school certificate, who was working in a factory, who gets, after a while, sacked when they were reducing staff, and he decides to go back home to his village to go and take up farming. So that became the Cockcrow of Bello. Yes. And I chose to do it in Jos again because I was born in Jos, don't forget. Yes. I knew my father was a tin miner, I knew the entire terrain and all that, and I said, for a farming program, that would be the best place, not Lagos. So, of course, while I was in school, there was an aspect of me that I didn't talk about. I love music. Yes. And going to secondary school, I had a band. When I was good to because my father was not too affluent. Mine at that time was ups and downs. Now you have it, now you don't. So sometimes no pocket money. I'll go and join some of the bands to sing and play with them, and make some pocket money and go back to school. And famous at that time too was one of the great singer called Bongo Zikwe. So when fast forward now to Cockcrow at Dawn, and even before Cockcrow at Dawn, for Moment of Truth, I used his music for Moment of Truth. It was his music I used for. So when Cockcrow at Dawn came, of course, I reached out to him again, and he asked me what was the brief, and I said, remember your song called Lagos, that compared the village and the town. So, and I said, that's what I wanted to do. Cockcrow is going to be shot in the village. But later, we want to discourage the urban migration. We want people to find the village attractive. And that's why you hear the traffic never jams. Don't cost much to buy some yams. And the neighbors say hello. And we'll always try to pull you up from down below. You can even hear the sound of the cockroach.
Hear the traffic never jams. Don't cost much to buy some yams. And the neighbors say hello. And we strive to pull you up from down below. You can even hear the sound of the cockroach.
Indeed, yours has been a story of success, even from childhood. Somehow you were able to carve a niche for yourself even as a child. Now, coming into television and having, producing top-notch programs, award-winning Moment of Truth, of course, Cockradon still rings bells today. Your life in television, yes, you did a lot of drama. I mean, all the grade A drama productions of NTA mostly were produced by you. But you also had your hands in other programs, one of which was, of course, AM Express. Yes. Tell us about other program productions.
Well, I produced 78 episodes of Cockroach at dawn. And after that, I was promoted and posted back to Lagos. And while in Lagos, they had created a department called National Productions that was in charge of producing all the programs for network. And so I was part of that. And 1983, I was made acting general manager. I was promoted acting general manager. And I said, I was tired of everybody talking Cockradon. And I wanted to also do for other programs what I had done for drama. Of course, after Cockradon would come with Behind the Clouds, Mirror in the Sun, so many other, Magana Jariche, all that, Magana Jariche, Mirror in the Sun, all came 1983 when I was down general manager. But we also said, okay, well, let's do for music also something different. Before then, we just brought some musicians to the studio to perform and go and all that. So I wanted a series, and I drove to Kaduna, and I wanted a group that had a musician that had a band, and that could give me, was big enough to give me 13 episodes at least one quarter. And I chose Balamila.
The Balamila show.
That's how we got to Balamila. It almost didn't happen, because at that time, when I met Balamila, and I said, I want to do a series with you, and he said, how much do you have? And I said, I don't have much. He said, well, go and bring me 1 million naira per episode.
At that time.
And I said, so I reminded him that the last time we saw, we was with another great Nigerian. And that great Nigerian later died. And we got calls from even the BBC and many international to send video of this great singer. We didn't have none. We didn't have any. Because that great singer at that time, every time you went to him to record him, he would say, go and bring money first. So I said, I think you want your music to live after you and your performance. So he then said, okay, how much do you have? And I said, fine. So that's how come we got there. And we made sure we used the show to showcase other top artists. And that's why in the Balamila show we had great guest artists like Atalade, Onyeko Nwenu, Chris Okotie, all the top artists we brought to Kaduna to record. The 13 episodes, in fact, we edited that in London. They were so popular that, in fact, the DG at that time said, we must do more. So we shot another 13 episodes with Balamila show.
I'd like to say to all of you, happy viewing tonight with your wife, and your husband, and your daughter, and your son, your friends, relation, and all your friends. For it's for everybody. Had the kaima, the ke, the kaka, the amalia, the ango,
negative view. I am going to fight for my rights and I'm going to get them.
Honestly, it is worth fighting for.
Of course. And in fact, you know what? I believe that lawyer knows what he's doing.
Yes, he does. Anyway, let me go and see to what I'm doing in the kitchen.
All this right where you they do, so it be like say what plenty gone.
Well, not really. Remember I told you I'm expecting a consignment today.
But see plenty all this one where you they right so. I be running no day for supermarket.
No, she's on leave. She traveled.
Oh, so madam go bring another sales girl.
No.
The man, Peter Igu, is a man of many faces. He's a man who knows how to manage human beings. He is a master manager. I guess that's why he has been very successful in everything he dips his hands in. A private production company owned by one of the top northern film directors. He's late now, Adamu Halilu. He was the MD of Aske Films. He approached NTA and took that drama play that won the first position, which is a Moment of Truth, to produce it into a major feature film. That was how I met Peter Igu. There are a lot of things I know about television, but the better part of my knowledge of television tactics, tricks, and all that was working with Peter Igu.
Peter Igu. We call him Baba. And if I have to describe my relationship with Peter, how do I start? Because he's so much part of my life. He's my brother, he's my friend, a mentor, a boss. Name it, he is. Peter is an astonishing man. Absolutely tribalized, hardworking, focused, a go-getter. You name it, that is who Peter is. Absolutely creative, absolutely hardworking.
This man happens to be a quintessential broadcaster, a very fantastic, fine producer, director. I could recall in those years when I used to hear about him. I did not even see him or know him much, but I used to watch programs in those days, the early programs like the Kokora Dawn, the Mirror in the Sun, and the rest of them. At the end of the program, end credit, you always see executive producer Peter Igu. Executive producer Peter Igu. I was wondering, who is this man? Is he a musician? Is he a spirit? That he's everywhere when it comes to NTA entertainment screen. Until I came across him on one-on-one. I think it was about in the early 2000 or so when I was transferred to Lagos. One thing about Mr. Peter Igu is that if he's on production, you don't even know that he is an executive, that he is an administrator, that of executive cadre. No. He drops that glory of that exalted position and put on, of course, the kit of a producer or director on location.
You obviously lived on passion. It was your passion that was the driving force and got you to where you were. I'm sure that in spite of your passion, there were challenges along the way, in you attaining your goals and your dreams. Take us through some of these challenges.
There was a time I was invited by the TV college to talk to producers and all the rest of them. And I asked them, how many of you are in this production because of the glamour you see? And almost all of them put there. And I said, well, you're in the wrong profession. Because television is much more than the glamour of the finished product that you see on television. A lot of TAs and hard work go into producing them. And we had our fair share of such. Because we were pioneers, we encountered so many problems. In Sokoto, as much as I painted all that, we did what we did, we achieved what we did because There was no ego problem. When you came into the studio in Sokoto at that time, you see me on the floor with the carpenters and all that, knocking together our flats, painting the flats. And most of the time, when you went to ask for money for your production, we were told there was no money. I sent home to my wife to say, look, is my lunch ready? She said, yeah, bring it to me. That became the food we used. If we didn't have curtains for the studio, I went home, took out the curtains from my house. And I had to prove a point that it could be done. And of course, when we did that, the station itself became quite motivated and thereby began to give us a little more resources. The first moment of truth for that competition, we had shot the partisan. The Alhaji who had no child for a long, long time had one, and though he's told he's not going to have another one, but he decides to celebrate and invites that one. And so he has a big party, and where he brings in all kinds of people from his business partners, his families, his other people. And we shot that scene. We mobilized for that scene from about 4 p.m. in the evening. We shot all through the night till about 5 a.m. in the morning before we stopped. And I told everybody to go and rest. And we will start in the afternoon of the next day. But of course, when they go to rest, I don't, because I have to prepare for the next. So we went, and I was in the studio getting ready to preview some of the materials that we shot, when I was told that my sound recordist, Thompson, his name, had an accident. Wow. Apparently, we finished at 5 a.m. He had gotten home. I think he wanted to pick up something and was driving to get him. So sleepy, groggy from lack of sleep and all that, and ran into a tree. By the time we got to the hospital to check, he was already dead. Goodness. And this was the day after we shot that picture, but production had to continue. And a few years later, I wrote a play called A Matter of Conscience, which I dedicated to his memory and about his life. But anyway, we had to continue, and until we finished, and that's one of the incidents we encountered. But after that, when Cock Crew was about to start, when it was started to go, when I've taken to Lagos, when I arranged to do everything, I'd given the budget, because it was a production on location. I had to rent houses where I'm going to camp my artists with the cast and crew. We had to employ people to run the places, house cooks, house boys that will clean and up and all that, to the entire personnel required to run a camp. I had been in Lagos for about a month working out this program. But before that 1 month, I had been in Argungu, training the Sokoto State, Northwest State Cultural Troupe. And they asked me to come and train them. And I've been away for about 1 month. So for about going to 2 months, I had been away from. And Christmas was coming, and my wife just drove to the NTA and to meet the GM. They said, look, for 2 months now, I've not seen my husband. Christmas is coming, okay, I'm going to carry my children and drive to my mother in Ilorin. Whenever I finish, he can come and meet us there. So my GM called me and said, what are you doing there? Come back. So I quickly told them, listen, I have to go back, and I went back to Sokoto to now get ready but because I had left my wife for so long, I decided that I couldn't leave her, but I had to go around to make contact with the artists. Asimuyero in Zaria, Lantana in Zaria, a few other people in Kaduna and all that. Then to go and pay for those and all that. So I took my wife, she was pregnant then. Wow. We drove, and of course I was the young person there, driving from Sokoto to Zaria, to Kaduna, to Jos and back. Then of course I had to take them back. We got back after about 5 days of this journey, tortuous journey, to Sokoto. Got back to Sokoto, and the GM said, I hear you're leaving in a few days' time. You cannot leave until you produce the end of year music entertainment program you normally produce. Wow. So because I was tired of driving, I left the car at home, which thank God I did. And I went to the station to produce. We walked till very late at night. And the car brought me home, and first thing I noticed was my car wasn't there. And I wondered, my car been stolen and all that. So I saw the security man who said, there was a problem here. Madam was not well, and we couldn't find you. So she entered the car and drove herself to hospital.
Oh, goodness.
So I drove to the hospital straight. Where God, they took me to the hospital. And I saw my car outside the hospital gate. And I said, what was happening? So they said, the woman who came here fainted when she got to the gate. So they rushed her to the theater. She had lost the baby.
Goodness.
So she was admitted. But I had to leave the next day because people were going to start arriving in the camp.
Wow.
And if I, the producer, was not in camp to make all the get them ready, the whole team will collapse. So I had to beg my wife to say, listen, I know you've gone through a lot, you've lost your baby and all that, but I promise you, this production, I don't know, I have a strong feeling this is going to be a major success, and I don't want to be the cause of the failure of that program. My brother was around, so begged him to stay with her and all that. So we left. So that's the background which we started Cockroach at Dawn. So and there are so many challenges like that. Many producers who gave their soul and to produce these things that people see and just clap and laugh and move on. But so this is part of the sacrifice we as producers have made over the years. And when years later Nollywood came and they gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award as one of the pioneers who had influenced the industry, I dedicated the award to her and to my children because, like I said at that time,
They had suffered.
they grew up, your wife and your children were grown up without you. So the success was achieved on the altar of the sacrifice we paid for not being a good husband, to be at home, available husband, or for your children. So they grew up without you. So these are the things that we pay, and I think it's both ways.
Wow. 7 years of the AMPCA. This is the first time that father and son are winning in the same night.
Will he ever make it? Will he ever hear the sound of the cockroach at dawn? This is really a big surprise. How they managed this without my knowledge, I cannot tell. But I'm happy to be here. It's one thing we always say in the African tradition that you want to grow, but you want to see your children grow bigger. I'm happy to say that I'm alive to see my son and other children grow bigger than we did. The other time I got a Lifetime Achievement Award, I dedicated it to my family, my wife and children, because half the time people see only the glamour. They do not see the pains, the tears that you spend while you are entertaining people that your family at home suffers. But I'm glad to say that my family has been there all the time and supported me everywhere I've gone. The NTA family, the Nigerian television family, analog to digital. They asked me to bring, I was analog, and my son digital. So there are two of us lecturing in every hall. And that really inspired me and him.
We've heard so much about the challenges of the job and how it has impacted the family of the Eagles. Why not let's meet a few members of his family? Let's see and hear what they have to say, talking about the children and the wife of Peter Eagle.
When I was 60, nothing happened. So it's a big surprise, and I thank them for that, especially my husband, my children.
He's always been a man of integrity all his life, and that's one of his greatest strong points, because he tells you if you live by integrity and do the right things, it will pay off at the end. And those are one of his great strong points. And, I think that has always helped him throughout all the work he has done and everything that he's achieved in today's world. And weak points, I'm trying to think of one now. I'd say probably my dad is a calm and collected person, and I wouldn't say call it a weak point in my sense. I'd say he just would like to resolve things in fashions that are not physical. My dad was absent a lot. I mean, like he went to shoot on sets and all those things. I mean, sometimes leave equipment. So he was not around, but I mean, I found a way to cope with it because I know my dad left equipment and things like that. I would go into the equipment place and sneak around the cameras and start recording myself and shoot mini videos of rapping or singing or doing whatever the case. And that's where the love came up. So even in his absence, there was still some stuff that I could get across to, and my mom was always there, and she was, always there to talk to and get you through things.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
The man Peter Igo has touched so many lives, and he's got some people that are quite close to him. Why not let's meet some of these individuals who can tell us really who this man Peter Igo was growing up, and who he is today as a friend and as an associate. Let's get to meet them.
Well, the man is such a charming human being that, you seldom know where he is from, what his immediate, bloodlining and etc. I knew him for almost 11 years before I knew where he exactly came from. This is a real Nigerian who mixes with everybody, who actually is the type of people we should have, to champion the unity of this country.
3 things you can say about Peter. The first is his simplicity. It's very simple. What you see is what you get. There are no complications. Then number 2 is one individual I know who is almost totally disinterested in gossip, either benign or malevolent. He doesn't like talking about others. Then thirdly, he's extraordinarily kind. And the combination of these 3 elements, I'm not surprised, has made him the iconic, successful television producer that he is today.
Good enough you mentioned your title, Danjikan Kabu. You grew up in the north. And so a lot of people, if they don't get close to you, will not know that you're not from the northern part of Nigeria, because you have infused yourself so well into them, so much so it looks like it dictates your dress sense. Perhaps you want to correct us here. What dictates your dress sense?
Again, born in Jos, grown up in Jos, affected me in many positive ways. One, the school I attended, starting from where we grew up, I told you, amongst Igbos, and I learned to speak Igbo and Hausa. But I didn't learn, I grew up speaking those languages. So most of my friends were Igbos, Hausas, and many, in fact, the entire Nigerian tribal were all in Jos. Jos was a cosmopolitan town with so many people. So we grew up as one with each other. We didn't, when we go out to play football, one part of the town against the other, and we go and fight. We are fighting Dodo Street against Hiyamba Street, not Igbo or Hausa. We are fighting, these are our groups. And in our own group, we had Hausas, Igbos, Yorubas, and all that. You understand? That's how we grew up. When it was Christmas time, all our Hausa friends would all come to my mother would cook. We go out and distribute food to everybody. And when it was salad time, it was the same. They would bring us ram to the home, and we all were part. We all won. When years later I went to Kaduna, some of us who came from Jos, we fought as Jos boys. You dare not touch any one of us. When I left university and I went to Bida, and I heard Nupe being spoken, I said, So one of our friends, who's Nupe, one family friend. So I said, this is where they come from. I thought all of us came from Jos. I didn't know that everyone has a place that they call their own homes. This was how integrated this oneness had been in all of us. But coming back to my own home, my father had 4 wives. He had an Igbo wife. He had my mother, who's a Robo. He had a Birom wife from the Plateau State. He had a Fulani wife.
Wow.
So we grew up in that environment. And every camp that we stayed, we lived where he was. Invariably, most times, he was the only Christian in that camp. All his workers were houses and all that, Muslims. So as they gave us a name, he gave us his own English Urobo name. The houses will properly name us our own names. My eldest brother is Musa. One of them is Idi. I'm Garba. My late sister is Kande. Audu is immediately following my youngest sister. Our last born is Amadou. He's late now. The father of Karen, who won bring brother. So this was the environment in which we grew up. And like I said, Bida had meant so much to me. It was in Bida that I did that play that became the national honor. It was in Bida I met my wife. It was in Bida I had my first daughter, who went back to school in Bida and ended up marrying somebody from Bida.
Wow.
So our family is multi-religious, multicultural. So you cannot use religion or tribe against, or use us to fight any wars or whatever. And so that's the background from which I came. And when I went to Sokoto, Northwest State, like I told you, in Bida, I could have wanted to promote Urobo. But because I was in Bida, I chose to promote what was there with me. And so Nupe and what it represented and wonderful people who they were, we were able to expose to Nigeria from that play. And they too had received me openly and as one. And when I went to Sokoto too, while I was in Sokoto, most of the the chief cultural officer, the chief principal officers of all Muslims and others, took me as their own, as one. And any problem we had, they were there to assist. So this was the environment in which we grew up. And when I got this title, it was because of one, that production that we'd done for Northwest State. Yes. And also the fact that I trained the Northwest State cultural troupe also in Argungu. But more than that, almost every Argungu fishing festival, I led the team to go to cover the fishing festival. But on top of that also, Moment of Truth, that won that first NTA thing, was bought by a private film, one of the filmmakers I mentioned, Adamu Alilo. They did a couple with the NTA, and we shot a movie of Moment of Truth. And we were camped in Argungu. On top of that, again, we now shot the movie on the Kantar of Kebbi, the founder of the Kantar Empire, the Kebbi Empire. Yeah. So I had been part of the family of there. So it was in recognition of all that I've done and all the years that I spent, I was given that title, that Danjik Kebbi, the grandson of the ruler of the Empire of Kebbi State, the Kebbi Empire.
And of course, to a large extent, it also dictates your dress sense.
Not really. For me, it's convenience. So I have a lot of suits and safaris and all that. But dry cleaning them is a lot of trouble. It's easier to wash these and wear. So more convenience than. But of course, when you live in Rome,
you behave like the
Romans do.
How many languages does Peter Ego speak?
Well, enough to get by. I found at a very early stage that when you meet someone and you speak to him in his own language, it opens doors. It breaks down barriers, and it leads to stronger friendship and clears distrust and all that. So it has helped me a lot of ways. When I went to university, from the whole of the first year I was there, nobody really knew where I was from. I attended the meetings with the Igbos. I attended the Hausa meetings I attended the Delta meetings and all that. My roommate, one of the roommate I met later was a Yoruba, an elderly person. And when he saw I could speak Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba fluently, he said, "What about Yoruba?" I said, "Smart." He said, No. From today, I'm not going to talk to you in any other language but Yoruba. So for the whole year, he spoke to me only in Yoruba and all that to ensure that. And of course, my wife is Yoruba and all that. Then, each time I meet someone, I always say, teach me something in your language. So, Idoma, Igala, TV, Igbira. I smattering of all those ones because, like I said, I listen well, and again, people say I have ears for languages, and I think I do. And I'm able to pick up distinctions between various languages, and what makes them difficult, what are the difficult areas, and how to navigate against the ones to help. But it has helped, and I'm glad for it.
You're glad for it. A true Nigerian, I must say. Now, Peter Igo, we know that, yes, you retired from NTA, you took up appointment with the Lottery Commission and all of that. It seems that even in retirement, you're still busy. You still find one thing or the other to engage yourself. Do you rest at all?
He who rests, rusts. Success and health comes only to he who moves. So, basically, I mean, I'm a very restless person. My friends, my family, everyone knows that. I can't sit in one place. I'm like the song Bongo System. I'm a road runner, and I can't sit in one place a long time. I can't really sit down in one place a long time. It has helped me in many ways because if I'm not active, I will not be who I am or what I am today. And that's why I still play golf. I play my golf at least 4 times a week. At least 9 holes of golf, 3 times a week. Then on Saturdays, maybe I play 18 holes of golf. It doesn't require sharp bursts of energy. Okay. You just walk at your pace. And of course, you are out there in the open, breathing fresh air, meeting with people, because meeting people and chatting with people is also part of health being and all that. So, and of course, I started having a family at an early age. So I'm still my children are still at that age where I interact with them. Even my grandchildren who are growing up now. I've introduced some of them to golf, and some of them are acting in Tosin's movie now, 7. One of them acted in the movie. So it's for me, it's part of my health well-being. But like I started by saying, I know that if you do not keep yourself busy, you will rust. And even the brain dies if you do not keep it active. So I still write. I'm actually working on a movie now, a play story now. One of those I've done before. We're putting it together now to shoot a movie from that. I'm working on a series also. And just recently, I've been called by the DG NTA. Of course, yes. We are working together now to reboot the classics. They bring back those classics, Village Headmaster Samanja, Masquerade, Magana Jariche, and possibly Kokra Dawn. So we must be grateful to the DG and his management who have realized that the quality of your establishment is judged by the quality of the content that you should have on air. And these classics are evergreen in people's minds. Exactly. They still are endearing. Many Nigerians still love them. And he has made a good decision with his management to bring them down together. And so I'm giving my best also to support him and in this worthy endeavor.
Ever busy Peter Igo. I also know that in my years of interaction with you when you were in service, you love to sing. And you've given us a few hints here and there. Can we get Peter Igo to sing for our viewers?
Catching me.
In whichever form the voice is, I'm sure that viewers would love to see and hear Peter Igo sing.
No, I mean, my voice is not in the best of... We sang that time not because... I have a friend, he's listening to this interview now. In secondary school, you became popular or you didn't have a girlfriend if you couldn't sing. And so songs like, don't you know I love you, please don't break my heart in two. That's not how to do, because the heart don't have a wooden heart. And when you say goodbye, then I know my heart will break. Maybe I would die, because the heart don't have a wooden heart. And so on and so forth. And
wow.
So you have to do that, sing with soul, and otherwise you had no girlfriend. But just jokes apart, we were young, we enjoyed ourselves, we had no what's in the hand. And so singing was part of, like I said, I would leave school to go and join a band and sing. And we had a group in the university called the QMax. I was the lead singer, and our lead guitarist is listening to this, but I'm sure you're going to talk to him later.
Yes.
So it's something that makes me happy. I can sing, whenever anything sad comes up, I sing, and I can sometimes sing myself to tears, to make myself happy. And my mother used to do a lot of that. Every time we were tears were apart, she would tell us a story. She was a great storyteller. And most of the stories I tell my grandchildren are from my mother. And even Magana Jariche, I read in Hausa. My dad had the book, and I read that from my father at that time. So well before we came to prison, that I had read Magana Jariche, and so it's good to be happy. It's nice to be. And singing is one of them. I sing to my grandchildren many times. They come and sing. Sometimes my wife will say, "Okay, sing me that your old that song."
That song.
So it's a happy thing, and but.
Thank you so much, Peter Eagle. Thank you. I mean, it's always a delight to be in your company, to listen to you talk.
Thank you very much. It's always nice to come back home.
Yes.
To the NTA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have been speaking with the master storyteller, the producer of all producers, as we call him in the NTA, talking about Peter Eagle. MFR, actually, because he has that tag on him in terms of his contributions to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The show is Executive Discuss, and we do hope we've made an impact on you today. Let's do this again, same time next week. Bye-bye.